A family destroyed by faith. One woman's story of persecution in China. What happens when belief becomes a crime? And love becomes resistance? November. Winter arrives early in northern China, carrying a cold that cuts to the bone. It has been 6 months since the day my sister was arrested. In May of that year, she was taken into custody by state security officers for practicing Falun Gong, a spiritual discipline based on the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Since 1999, this practice has been banned and suppressed nationwide by the Chinese authorities. She was later sentenced to 5 years in prison on the charge of undermining the enforcement of the law, an accusation frequently used in cases involving Falun Gong practitioners. Today, she was to be transferred to a provincial prison. Early in the morning, my parents, elderly and burdened with illness, decided to go to the detention center to see her one last time before she was moved farther away. My mother stayed up all night sewing a thick pair of padded winter pants, hoping my sister could stay warm during the freezing winter behind prison bars. My father carried the best food he could prepare. The wind howled. The prison gate remained tightly shut. Because it was not yet working hours, they had to wait outside. My mother clenched her teeth against the cold, her eyes fixed on the iron gate. Though she knew staring at it would not help her see her daughter, she still stood on her toes, trying to look beyond the high, cold wall. Her white hair fluttered wildly in the wind. She remained standing there. In order to help my parents see my sister, I tried every possible connection. Eventually, I found someone willing to assist us. That was necessary. In that place, there existed an unspoken but harsh rule. Those convicted of murder, arson, or drug trafficking were allowed to see their families. But for Falun Gong practitioners, visitation rights were often restricted or completely denied. According to multiple human rights reports, limiting family visits has been a common form of psychological pressure in cases involving detainees held for their beliefs. When working hours began, my acquaintance went inside to make arrangements, while my parents waited on a bench in the security room. They waited with hope. After a long time, he came out. The answer was, he could not see her. She had already been transferred earlier that morning. My heart felt as if it were being crushed. Since childhood, I had been very close to my sister. She took care of me when I was young. She had once been frail and often ill, but after she began practicing Falun Gong, her health improved significantly. Our family witnessed that transformation. When the persecution began in 1999, she never gave up her faith. Before this, she had already been detained for 1.5 years simply for traveling to Beijing to make a peaceful appeal. We once urged her to stop. But she said that freedom of belief is a fundamental human right. China's constitution states that citizens have freedom of religious belief. But in reality, that right was not protected. Our family gradually came to understand that what was happening was not merely a personal incident. It was part of a systematic policy, one that separated countless families because of their faith. When I returned to tell my parents that we would not be able to see her that day, I could not lift my head to look into my mother's eyes. 5 years. 5 more years. Given my mother's fragile health, would she live to see my sister return? Or would she leave this world carrying that unfulfilled longing? How would my sister's 2 young children grow up without their mother? I did not dare to think further. My family story is not an isolated case. Since 1999, hundreds of thousands of Falun Gong practitioners have been detained, imprisoned, or sent to so-called re-education facilities. Numerous human rights organizations and international reports have documented allegations of torture and cruel treatment during detention. But behind those numbers are families. Mothers waiting in the freezing cold. Fathers left helpless. Children growing up in separation. Who built this wall that separates a mother from her daughter? And why is living by truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance considered a threat? As we quietly walked away from the prison in the bitter wind, only one thing remained unbroken: my sister's faith and my mother's love. Because when faith is treated as a crime, any family can become a victim. Outro transition. This story is shared in remembrance and in hope that no family, anywhere, will have to pay the cost of belief. Disclaimer. This video is based on a true personal account and documented human rights reports. Views expressed are those of the survivor and do not constitute legal or medical advice. Content is intended for educational and documentary purposes to highlight personal experiences of faith and resilience. Editorial note: this video presents a condensed and adapted version of a verified report, edited solely for narrative clarity and audience accessibility. No factual events or identities have been altered. Original sources are cited in full.